Good evening and welcome to tonight's neighborhood meeting for a future development proposal in Ward 2. My name is Celeste Kitsemetry and I'm a senior planner with the city's Development Services Department. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to present to you the neighborhood, a development concept being considered by the owner and development team of the property at 149, 151, and 153 Dunlop Street East, prior to a formal development application being submitted to the city. This provides an opportunity for the applicant to hear initial community feedback and incorporate it into their plans prior to making a full and formal development application to the city. Please be aware that we are recording this meeting for the public record. The recording will be used for the purpose of garnering your input and to respond to inquiries and will be considered public information. Please also be aware that as a registered attendee, your email and mailing address will be added to the mailing list so that you can receive further information about this application as it progresses. Should you have any questions regarding this collection, please contact the Development Services Department. I would also like to let everyone know that there are staff behind the scenes managing the technology tonight. They're here to make sure the meeting runs smoothly, to grant participants the opportunity to speak, and to assist with any questions in the chat. Please bear with us if we have any issues. And if for some reason you get disconnected, please feel free to log in again. The intent of tonight's meeting is to provide members of the public with an opportunity to become familiar with the development application and the planning review process, and to also ask the applicant questions and provide feedback. What to expect during a virtual neighborhood meeting is a brief overview of the city's review process and timing, a presentation from the applicant's representative describing the proposal, and an opportunity to ask questions of either the applicant or city staff and provide comments or identify concerns with the proposed application. What not to expect at the meeting is for city staff to make recommendations on the application or a detailed analysis on this proposal, as this will occur later in the review process. And not to expect a debate on the merits of the proposal between city staff and the applicant. Before we get into the presentation, I just want to quickly highlight the next steps in the application process. This neighborhood meeting is established early in the development process to ensure local concerns are incorporated or addressed through the city's review. After this meeting, we expect that the applicant will make a formal application submission for this development project. Formal submissions undergo a full technical review, and the applicant is expected to address comments received at this neighborhood meeting from the city's technical departments and external agencies. In conjunction with this, a statutory public meeting will be held virtually regarding the application and will be held virtually regarding the application and will be held before the Affordability Committee, which is made up of members of City Council. At the public meeting, the applicant's representative will present their application to Council, answer questions, and provide an overview of and respond to any issues or concerns identified during tonight's neighborhood meeting. At the public meeting, members of the public also have an opportunity to provide verbal or written comments. Our Affordability Committee is held both virtually and in person at City Council chambers. Following the public meeting, staff will continue the technical review process and the applicants will make any necessary revisions to the development proposal. Once the review process has concluded, a staff recommendation report is brought forward to Council for their consideration. All comments received through the review process, including those received at the neighborhood and public meetings, are identified and addressed in the staff report and form part of staff's recommendation on the subject application. If approved, a bylaw would be brought forward to be passed by Council. If anyone has questions about the process, I'm happy to answer during the question and answer period that will follow the presentation, or you can contact me directly after tonight's meeting. As noted previously, our focus tonight is the future zoning bylaw amendment application proposed for the lands at 149, 151, and 153 Dunlop Street East. Maurizio Regato of Blackthorn Development is going to introduce the development team, and David Riley of SGL Planning and Design will be providing a presentation on behalf of the owner. The proposal is for a future zoning bylaw amendment application that would add special provisions to the existing zone to facilitate the development of a 25-story building housing 160 residential units and ground floor commercial uses. I will now hand the meeting control over to Mr. Regatta, who will first introduce himself and his team and then share the presentation on the proposed development.
Thank you, Celeste, and good evening, everyone. As noted, my name is Maurizio Regato. I am the principal planner with Blackthorn Development Corporation. I am joined this evening with Mr. Andrew Shields, our architect, and Mr. David Riley with SGL Planning and Design. A sincere thanks to everybody for making time out of their day to attend this evening's neighborhood meeting. We're here to listen this evening mainly. David will provide a short presentation because again, the objective is for us to hear your comments, document the same, and to continue the dialogue. We're really early in the process. As mentioned by Celeste, after this meeting, we will proceed to file a pre-submission application. And after that, we'll have additional time to discuss the development, continue our dialogue, I hope. And then lastly, I believe this evening we're scheduled until 6:30 p.m. So hopefully we can get everyone's comments in. I do need to leave at 6:30. I have a funeral visitation to attend, unfortunately. But hopefully Andrew and David can stay a little longer if they need to, okay? David, if you can please put up the presentation and walk us through it. And then I think what we'll do is take any questions and comments.
Will do. Thank you, Maurizio, and thank you, Celeste, for the introduction. So as everyone mentioned, my name is David Riley, and I am from SGL Planning and Design. And I will be providing just a very brief presentation this evening, just to provide an overview. And as Maurizio mentioned, really the purpose of today is really to just hear questions, concerns, and we'll take that back ahead of us having made an application. And of course, Andrew is here as well. So let's get going. You know, everyone is familiar, of course, with the location of the site. We're within downtown Barrie on the southeast corner of Dunlop and Mulcaster. And you can see here the site. And just make sure I can keep moving ahead here in terms of my slides. There we go. So here we have a map showing some of the surrounding uses. To the north, of course, we have commercial and retail uses along Dunlop Street, and of course the Bayshore Landing mixed-use building and the two towers there. To the east, we have Sam Kinsella Park directly to the east of the site, and then further east, we have a condominium tower that is mostly finished and is partly occupied, I understand. To the south, of course, we've got the municipal parking lot adjacent to Heritage Park and the Barrie North Shore Trail. And to the west, we have some additional commercial and retail uses, of course, going through downtown Barrie. So what's proposed is a 25-story building, and you can see here the building articulation and the extensive terracing that's proposed. As everyone here will be familiar with, there is a noticeable grade change from Dunlop frontage down to the south of the site, where the site drops off in elevation towards Heritage Park and the lake. So while this is a unique site from a topographic and a grading perspective, there really is an opportunity here to create an interesting building with at-grade retail and entrances, thinking about both pedestrians and vehicles, and pedestrians to the residential units, but as well as to the retail units. And so just a summary of some of the key statistics for the proposed development. In terms of parking, this is always a big question that comes up, but the parking is in line. We've got 147 tenant spaces proposed, and this is in line with the emerging zone standards from the city's latest draft of the new zoning bylaw, where there would be a minimum 0.6 spaces per unit and a maximum of 1 space per unit. So what's proposed here is 0.9, so we're right in that range, 0.9 spaces per unit. So as Celeste mentioned, there's 160 units proposed. 147 tenant parking spaces here. Indoor and outdoor amenity area is proposed on the 5th floor, and the indoor and outdoor amenity space are contiguous to one another. I mentioned commercial space along the ground floor, and you can see here noted the amount of retail space proposed compared to residential. And as you can see, a range of unit types are proposed with many 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. So that'll certainly be important as the city grows and offering those 2 and 3-bedroom family-sized units in the building. And then we've included a few views just to give an idea of what the proposed building will look like. So this is a view looking northwest to the site from the lake. So in this case, we're in the lake. Here's a view looking northeast to the site from Heritage Park. Here's another view looking west towards the site along Dunlop Street. And here's a view looking east towards the subject site along Dunlop Street. And so just a little bit on the actual policy framework and zoning framework that applies to the subject site. So the official plan designates the property high density. And in the high density designation, it permits both residential and commercial uses. And we are within the urban growth center of Barrie. The new official plan also establishes minimum density requirements and height requirements, as well as maximum height requirements. So for the high density designation within the city's urban growth center, which is where we're located, buildings must be between 12 stories at a minimum and 25 stories at a maximum. And the official plan requires a minimum density of 300 units per hectare to be achieved. And that's a minimum density. So we're looking at really over the next little while, some major intensification in downtown Barrie. And the proposed residential and commercial building here is 25 stories in height, in line with what's permitted in your official plan. And because of this, because it's a permitted use and we are maintaining that maximum height of 25 stories, an official plan amendment is not required. So that's why only a zoning bylaw amendment is required here. And when it comes to zoning, the existing zoning bylaw zones the site as central area commercial, which is the C1 zone. And the zone permits commercial and residential uses, but a zoning bylaw amendment is required to establish performance standards that are specific to this proposed development. And that includes a slight reduction in the required number of parking spaces, an increase in the maximum permitted gross floor area and height, and changes to recognize proposed building setbacks, step backs, amenity areas, landscape buffers, and some other matters listed here. But what I wanted to note is, as I mentioned earlier, you've got an official plan that permits 25 stories. And the city right now is updating its zoning bylaw to conform to the new official plan. And it's a second draft of the zoning bylaw is the most recent draft that was released. And as it relates to this subject site, what's proposed now in the city's draft zoning bylaw to conform to the official plan is the zone for this whole area is called urban core. And this permits high density residential buildings up to 25 stories, which is in line with the official plan. And with respect to parking, recognizing that we're moving into scenarios here where we're needing to accommodate higher densities, but also decrease people's reliance on personal vehicles to get around and kind of shift towards using transit and active transportation methods to get around. The proposed zoning bylaw that's out there right now from the city reduces the minimum parking requirement. So for this site, which would be within what's called District 1 of the parking requirements, the new zoning bylaw right now that's draft proposes a minimum of 0.6 parking spaces per unit and a maximum of 1 parking space per unit. So the proposed development, as we're proposing here, would fall squarely within this range at 0.9. Of course, this zoning bylaw is draft and it's not in effect right now. So we do require the zoning amendment to the existing zoning bylaw in effect. And that's just our summary of the presentation or of the proposal, and wanted to keep it brief so that we could keep the questions coming and an opportunity for discussion tonight. So thank you.
Thanks, David. And I think at this point, we'll invite everyone to ask questions. Celeste will monitor and select people asking questions, and we'll filter the questions through myself. Thank you.